Have you ever wondered why some people just seem completely calm while mortgage rates are jumping around like a heartbeat monitor? I mean, most of us have been told to just wait, right? To sit tight, stay patient, and hold out for that magic 6% rate to finally return. But what if that quiet sense of hope is actually the most expensive thing you own right now? Welcome to The Explainer. Let's get curious for a second here. What is actually happening behind the curtain while you're just sitting in that financial waiting room?
Before we really dive into the receipts and solve this puzzle together, do me a quick favor. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It honestly helps us keep the math honest. Also, I really want to hear from you down in the comments. What is the magic rate you're waiting for before you'd be willing to sign a contract? Let me know.
Now look, we aren't here to tell you that you absolutely must buy right now or that you should wait forever. Instead, we are here to walk through a controlled experiment that finally measures who actually wins. Let's rewind to June 2022. Two neighbors, David and Ryan, were renting in the exact same neighborhood. The exact same house came up on their block, 3 bedrooms, decent shape, for $385,000. The rate that week, 5.8%. One neighbor, David, bought it immediately. The other, Ryan, well, he decided to wait.
So 2 years ago, Ryan made a bet that honestly sounded perfectly reasonable. He bet on a timeline he thought he could control, deciding to wait just 6 months for rates to drop before pulling the trigger. He was following that infamous advice you literally hear everywhere: marry the house, date the rate. You know the idea, right? Rates are temporary, the house is permanent. So just wait, let rates settle, let prices cool down, and then jump in when conditions are perfect. But while he was sitting around waiting hopefully for the world to change, the math was moving ruthlessly against him.
Fast forward to today, and Ryan is still waiting. And get this, just this week, the major rate forecasts were walked back. That 6% dream everyone is holding out for, it's now projected to stay above 6.4% all the way through 2027. So this gives us 4 full years of receipts to look at. We're going to run the real math right now. Not the version your agent gives you where buying always wins, and definitely not the version the internet feeds you where waiting is always smart.
Okay, so the strategy of waiting isn't actually a strategy at all. It's built on a fragile tower of 3 stacked assumptions that almost nobody talks about. Assumption number 1, home prices won't rise enough to eat up your interest savings. Assumption number 2, rates will actually drop enough on a timeline you can practically live with. And assumption number 3, when rates finally do drop, you'll actually be able to refinance and the math will magically pay for itself after closing costs. Let's break these down.
First up, assumption 1, flat prices. Honestly, this is the most dangerous bet of all.
Let's dive into the assumption that does the absolute most damage. The idea that prices will just stay flat while you wait. When you decide to wait for rates to drop, you aren't just betting on the rates themselves. You are ruthlessly betting that the exact house you want won't get more expensive while you're sitting on the sidelines. Historically, that is a remarkably hard bet to win. National home prices jumped about 11% from the middle of 2022 to today. So that house that was $385,000 back then, it's worth roughly $428,000 today. That is an extra $43,000, which is almost a year's salary for a lot of people, just sitting behind the exact same front door. David, who bought, gained that equity. Ryan, who waited, completely missed out.
And here is where the math just gets completely ruthless. This beautifully illustrates the trap. A slight half-point rate drop on that original loan size would probably save you about $90 a month in interest. Great, right? But financing a $43,000 price increase completely swamps those $90 savings for at least a decade. The price move is just so much bigger than the rate move. And here's the kicker: that higher price doesn't suddenly undo itself when rates eventually come back down.
Moving on to assumption 2, the perfect timeline. This is all about betting on the clock.
Now look at this second assumption, where Ryan thought he could safely time a rate drop within a quick 6-month window. Did you know that if you look at the data all the way back to 1971, a meaningful full percentage point rate drop within 24 months only happens about 23% of the time? Yeah, that means there is a massive 77% chance that hoping for the best is actually just a slow-motion trap. Even if you get the direction right, you can be wildly wrong about the timing. Ryan thought it would take 6 months. Well, 6 months turned into 4 years.
And while Ryan was waiting for a timeline that kept getting pushed back, he was paying rent. Over those 4 years, his total rent paid came to over $97,000. That money is just gone. Poof! Zero equity to show for it, just a stack of rent receipts. Meanwhile, David quietly paid down $17,000 of his principal mortgage balance.
Then we hit assumption 3, the idea that refinancing is completely free. Let's talk about those hidden closing costs.
This is a huge hidden assumption, often pushed by real estate agents, that you can just refinance later for free. It completely ignores the fact that closing costs typically run between 2 and 5% of your loan amount right up front. On a typical $300,000 loan, that's between $6,000 and $15,000. So, the crucial point here is this. If you drop your rate just slightly to save, say, $70 a month, you have to divide your closing costs by your monthly savings. It will take nearly 10 years, 118 months, just to break even on those hidden closing costs. If you sell the house before that decade is up, that refinance actually ended up costing you money.
So stack these 3 fragile coin flips on top of each other. Prices went up, not down. Rates stayed high. And the refi math? It just didn't work. When you see all 3 of these broken conditions together, you start to realize Ryan's plan wasn't actually a strategy at all. It was just a quiet sense of hope that completely collapsed under the weight of reality.
So, let's get to the final receipts. Let's see who actually won this thing.
Let's move to the real climax of this explainer and run the actual apples-to-apples math to finally measure this 4-year experiment. The results? They're undeniable. David is sitting on $137,000 in home equity. Now, Ryan did do pretty well saving. He built up $92,000 in liquid savings by earning interest on his down payment while he waited. But look at that bottom line. Ryan is forced to pay $362 more per month if he wants to buy that exact same house today. Meanwhile, David built incredible wealth and has his much lower payment completely locked in. When you net out literally everything, all the lost rent, the earned interest and savings, the paid interest and taxes, and the home appreciation, David is ahead by an undeniable $31,000 today. Plus, again, he has that lower monthly payment locked in for the next 30 years. There's no contest.
So let's ask a slightly different question. What would the world have had to look like for Ryan to actually come out ahead? For his waiting strategy to have worked, he would have needed an incredibly rare combination of events. He needed prices to fall by 2.9%, and I mean actively dropping, not just cooling off. Or he needed rates to plummet all the way down to 4.85% just to break even on his monthly payment going forward. Neither of those things happened.
The biggest takeaway here isn't that you should blindly buy today or endlessly sit in the waiting room hoping for things to get better. It's that you need to physically write down the exact price, the exact rate, and the exact timeline you are waiting for, and then check if history actually supports your bet. If the data backs up your conditions, great, you've made a reasonable bet. But if you can't write those numbers down, well, then you are just waiting hopefully. And as we've seen, hope doesn't show up in the math.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to take with you. What specific conditions are you actually betting on, and how likely are they to happen? Are you making a strategic, calculated bet based on real math? Or are you just waiting hopefully? The math is honest in a way the marketing just isn't, and honestly, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Thanks for learning with me today on The Explainer, and I'll catch you next time.